right. I'm gonna go ahead and assume that QR code for the attendance was not terribly too hard to accomplish, given that it's like one thing. Wasn't it one thing? Your name?
Yeah.
See, I remember. I made that 4 hours ago. Well, everyone, thanks for making it to the flight planning workshop. This is our second workshop of the semester. And oh my God, how you guys feeling? Tired, burnt out, energetic, ready to go? Wow, thank you, Jovan. I'm glad to hear that you guys are so excited to be here at 7 o'clock on a Tuesday night. Anyways, in the next 30 to 40 minutes, guys, we're gonna be talking today about anything that I would deem to be more helpful for an in-person instructional format, if you will, about flight planning. You could talk about this subject just like with anything else in aviation for literally hours with no stop. So let's not do that tonight, and let's rather talk about the more useful and helpful practical things. Mason is a slave to the rat because he works at Disney, so unfortunately he could not make it tonight. Something last minute happened, I don't know, he'll tell me later, but he was supposed to be here for it, but fear not, I'm here, yay. We're gonna be talking about airspace first. It's pretty hard to talk about flight planning and sectionals when you don't know what airspace is, how it works. Show of hands, raise your hand if you know like next to nothing about airspace. It's okay, be honest. Josh, I see your hand up. Noah, I see your hand up, I see your hand up. Okay, so the rest of you guys feel confident, right? So if I ask you a question about airspace, you should know what's going on. Oh, okay, now we're seeing some people change their mind. Okay, but the idea is that we're not gonna cover everything, of course, as with most of the things that we do, is not designed to be fully inclusive of all the necessary subject matter, but again, what I would say is to be more important. So there's that, there's sectional charts. We have some expired sectional charts. I'm gonna be so honest with you guys. I would love to look nice and charitable, but I just don't wanna keep it anymore. So if you want it, please take it. It's not coming home with me tonight. It is going to stay on that table, or it's gonna go home with you guys. Adopt it. I also have this E6B back from my private pilot days. As you can tell, I have not used it because I live in the 21st century, but it's there. If you wanna mess with it, you can. I'm not saying it's completely useless, but I have a digital one. We're talking a little bit about weather. Weather is pretty important given that we're flying through it, or around it preferably. And then some other tips and tricks that I would say I had learned later. That is something I didn't learn when I was taught formally flight planning in the private pilot days, but something I picked up through either experience or close calls or anything else of that nature. So that's the gist with that. So the first thing we're gonna cover and rather go through is what's required. The FAA is lovely because they will literally tell you, you need to know everything. I highlighted it in red. I only got the first excerpt of the regulation, but it will tell you you need to become familiar with all available information concerning that flight. All available information concerning that flight. That's their way of just saying, whatever you have at your fingertips as a resource, it's your job as the PIC to take advantage of that for planning your flight. Okay, so that's all it is. It's designed to be a broad catch-all regulation for a reason. So we're gonna go and dive a little bit deeper into that and actually kind of show you what that means. Because the FAA, like any government agency, will say something and then you're gonna sit there like, cool, what the hell does that mean? So we're gonna try to explain to you tonight a little bit more what that exactly means. So airspace, we're not gonna go into every single little thing, but this picture, this graphic right here, tends to clear up a good portion of the confusion that people have when it comes to interpreting and understanding sectional charts. So, yeah, I'll take a look at, oh, Miami. Let's see what's going on over there. Oh boy, okay. Yay! Can you imagine doing this at like 5,000 feet in turbulence? Very fun. That's why EFBs are used, my friends. But that's a lot of stuff. A lot of times when I show this to people, they look at me like I'm a rocket surgeon or something like really, really intelligent or smart. I promise you I'm not, I'm far from it. But the reason why these things are so freaking confusing is because we operate in a three-dimensional space, but last I checked, paper is two-dimensional. So until they invent 3D paper, like those little pop-up storybooks and all that, that'd be really nice for a flight plan. We have to stick with these. So we have to take three-dimensional information and put it on a two-dimensional entity, a paper, or in this case, your iPad, whatever it might be. So that's the first reason why it's just absolutely like, oh my God, when you open up a sectional. But the most important thing that I like to explain to people is by starting with airspace, you're able to take 90% of what makes a sectional chart confusing and make it just a little bit more digestible and easy to understand. All right, quick question. Does anybody here know what type of airport MCO is? Wow, you were first.
Bravo.
Wow, okay. Would you mind explaining a little bit about a Bravo airspace, what the airspace is designed like?
So it's designed like an upside down wedding cake, as you can see there. It's primarily meant for heavy amount of commercial traffic, so airliners, why it's connected to the international airport. Requirements to fly in, you need, if you're VFR, you need a clearance in, so you need to hear the words, you are cleared into the Class Bravo airspace.
Yeah.
You need a mode C transponder, and I believe you also need a flight plan, or at least flight following. And then it's got different shelves. If you call them up, you enter the, or if you call them up and they don't say you're cleared to enter the Bravo, and you bust a Bravo, you will lose your license.
Ah, that's not good. We don't want to lose our license. Good answer. I like to see that. Well, yeah, I mean, it's pretty evident when you're looking at the structure of it. Whenever traffic is jet traffic, that's what it's designed for. It's taking off out of a Class Bravo airport. It's pretty much designed so that they don't have to worry about rinky-dink little poor people like us flying Cessnas and Pipers onto their windshield. I'm kidding, that's not the entirety of it, but it is designed for jet traffic as opposed to smaller piston aircraft like the ones that we fly. So whenever you're taking off and you're getting out of there or arriving into it, a lot of times when you look into instrument plans, so terminal arrivals, departures, all that kind of stuff, you'll find that the constrictions involving that is often worked into that airspace. What about Sanford? What type of airspace is that? Not you. I know you know the answer. Anybody else know what Sanford is? Come on, I know you guys know. I see a hand in the back. What is it? Whoa, what about that? Well, Charlie is like a Bravo, but not as big. It's got one little center cylinder, as you like to call it, and then an outer cylinder. Okay, so it's not exactly as big as a Bravo airport, so we're talking LaGuardia, LAX, we talked about MCO, all those types of bigger airports. Not quite those airports, but they're not just a small airport. They need a little bit more. So they're a Charlie airport. All right, what about, do Delta airports have towers in them? Yes or no? Everyone should be shaking their head yes. Delta airports do have towers in them. If you're flying into Class Delta airspace and you land without talking to tower, and they're not closed, something is wrong. You should be talking to tower. Delta has a tower. So that's the idea with that. And then I always found it to be a little bit interesting when I was trying to learn. Echo airspace always confused me in private. I don't know about you guys, but it confused the hell out of me. And then I finally learned the memory aid, E for everything else. Very convenient after my check ride. I heard that like 3 months after it was done. I was like, wow, that would have been nice 3 months ago. But that's the idea with it. E for everything else. Is Echo controlled airspace? Yes or no? No? Yes? What do you want to say?
I was going to say yes.
Yes. The answer is yes. Echo is good. Uncontrolled airspace is Class Gulf airspace. That's what that's for. So we could go into this all day, as you can see. This is so fun. I know you guys are just as excited as I am. No, you're not. But the idea is that there's endless ways to dig and poke and prod at airspace. And then if you go into the mountains, there's like some weird rules, like it goes up to 14,000. I don't know. We live in mountain areas, but that's the idea. Airspace is pretty complicated. If that's one of the areas that you struggle with, before we even go into the next couple subject matters, I advise you strongly to go home, do some review, go watch some YouTube videos. My best piece of advice is like go watch those 3D animation videos. That is way better than some boomer 60-year-old CFI with a whiteboard hoping to get into your head. These things are far more helpful. We're in the 21st century. Use the 21st century technology. But that is the gist about airspace. But before we do move on, are there any general big questions, big or small, about airspace that anyone would be so brave to ask, if anything? Yes?
Is there any special things I should be aware of if I'm flying to a Class Delta at night in general? Like if it's like Class Delta airspace and I'm flying at night, is anything going to change perhaps?
They could close the tower.
Right, and what does it, is it become a Class Echo?
It should, right? Yeah? Yeah? Is that your question?
No, I'm just saying.
Okay, yeah, me tripping, okay. But yeah, the tower can close, open and close, yeah. So that's actually a good point, especially for you guys that fly early in the mornings. It's something that we have to be very mindful of. And flying out of executive, they open up at 7, and then I think do you fly out of Sanford?
I'm going to this.
You're going to, okay. Don't they open at 6:30? Is that when they open? I swear I heard that somewhere, I couldn't remember.
I'm not sure yet.
Okay, well you're gonna find out, but I'm pretty sure.
I'll let you know.
Are you looking it up right now?
They look to be all, or 6:30 to.
Whoa, who guessed that? Me, I guessed that. Okay, so they do open at 6:30, but the point is they can open or close based on certain times, and it's so satisfying when you take off at like 6:59 and you're above the runway, and then you hear tower open up. Great day. Oh look, it's the Vice President of Pegasus Pilots. Everyone get a round of applause to him who made it. Yeah, sure, buddy. Excuses, excuses, excuses. Okay, so this right here, this is a little online website thing that is designed to simulate a digital E6B. So if you are going to be planning a flight, you'd be using an E6B. I would have brought in my expensive one, but I didn't want to like risk losing it or something stupid. So you guys can just scan the QR code and look it up on the website, but it's a fully functional digital simulator for the, what is it, the ASA CX6. That's the digital E6B, it's like $100-something bucks. And you can use these on your check rides. So let me tell you something, when it comes time to doing your private, your instrument, your commercial written, all these kinds of things, I've heard some people say that you can't use digital E6Bs. I don't know about that because I use mine. Didn't you hear that from, what was his name, Al? Didn't he say that you couldn't use like digital E6Bs or?
Yeah, I wasn't paying attention.
Yeah, you weren't paying, yeah, that's right.
I just had my actual one, so I didn't.
Yeah, so you can use these digital E6Bs when it comes to taking your, let me get out the way, using your E6B for a check ride. So that is an option. I just wanted to throw that out there. Whatever you do end up using though, be it a paper old school E6B or using the one that was designed in the 21st century, they are both allowed on your FAA written exams. So we'll talk about these E6Bs here in just a minute. And I actually wanted to start off with a little bit of fun trivia because when I was making this presentation, I actually had a really good question that I did not have the answer for, and I'm surprised it never came up. I was wondering, what does E6B actually stand for? And I got the answer. Does anybody know? Does anybody, no one else is a nerd like me? Wow, you guys suck. Anybody want to take a guess? Like extremely yeah, I don't know what it stands for. So I looked it up. The way that this worked was like back in the day, there was some naval aviator, and he was like some super smart guy. He invented, it was classified as equipment-6B. That's literally what it was. It was just some random slide computer, and it was called that, and that's how it stuck. So naval aviation, yay for that. So now you know. Next time you're at the airport, and you impress the boomer airline captain you're flying with, you have one more fun fact in your back pocket. All right, so the E6B, what is it going to be used for? Personally speaking, I have never used an E6B in flight. You've flown a little bit. Have you ever used an E6B in flight? Have you ever used an E6B in flight? Okay, so I'm not saying it's useless, but I'm saying that this is a flight planning tool, and it's very convenient because I'm supposed to be doing a flight planning workshop right now. How about that? So that's what the E6B is used for. Okay, now when we use our E6B, oh God, I don't even know how I'm supposed to calculate the fuel burn on this thing, but on the digital one, it's pretty simple. You can go in there, you plug and play the different types of values and parameters that you might find from your pilot operating handbook. You would go and get the winds from the weather, for example, and plug it into your digital E6B, for example, and maybe find the crosswind component for the runway that you're landing on. So your E6B is your tool to get a picture of what your flight is going to look like before you get in the air. So you're not, I hate to break it to you, you're not going to be sitting there going through airspace in turbulence and oh God, no, not exactly how it works. It's a planning tool before you get there, all right? What else do I have to say about this slide here? Heavy lifting of flight planning. Yeah, heavy lifting of flight planning, I do say that for a reason. I probably should have pulled this out beforehand, but hey, I'll pull it out now. Why not? Here it is. All right, so I also brought with me today, back from my good old private pilot days, these bad boys. Yes, sir. My navlogs. You guys scared of paper? Ooh. Hey, easy now. Josh, shut up. Ooh, paper, math, ooh. Okay, so, of course you would do that. Dumbass. All right, so anyways. These are our old school navlogs, all right? When you did your PPL, did you have to use these?
Yes, sometimes.
You did? What about you? You did? Yeah? Yeah? Okay, good. Glad to see it. Me too. Do you guys ever use these beyond that? No?
Not really.
Not really? Okay, I feel like you're about to say yes and you're about to scare me. But these little navlogs right there, that is so important to get down because at the end of the day, when it comes to flying is different in some ways compared to what we're used to in our everyday general life, right? Like when you go into a car, you just plug in Google Maps and you go. You don't really like look at, well, when I get to the intersection of Alpha, and no, you just, all right, well, I'll be in parking garage I at like 12:50, so I'll get to class at like 3 o'clock, right? So that kind of adds up, right? But with this, you actually have multiple different waypoints you have to calculate. There's fuel burn, there's winds, there's different types of magnetic headings, and all these different things we have to look at. So at least learning on a paper chart, if you will, is helpful. Using your E6B does just that task. Okay, Okay, that's the real reason, that's the real area, I should say, where using your E6B is going to shine. Now, this sectional chart QR code, it links you to a helpful resource from the FAA that if you care to save it and look at on your own, this will take you through every single symbol that you will find on a sectional chart, and it will tell you what it means. So if you go on here and you say, hey, this airport has a funny looking symbol, and this one has a flag sticking out of it, and this one has all these, that's upside down. This one has some numbers, so you get the idea. If you don't know how to read a sectional and you want to find a pretty simple way to study and get better at them, literally all you got to do is start looking around at your sectional chart, find the things that you don't know, go to the QR code. You got it? Good, I saw you back there. Don't worry, your efforts aren't unnoticed. You can go between those two and kind of figure out those gaps in knowledge. And that's what I did, and then I also watched some YouTube videos, that too. But that's the way to do it. I hate to break it to you, but I cannot sit here, unfortunately, and whip out a spoon and feed you pieces and bits of information until 12 a.m. teaching you how to do it. Do you want me to? I'm kidding. How to read a sectional chart. But the best thing you can do is practice. I know it's so exciting when you come to a workshop and I get up here for 30 minutes just to say, do it on your own. But that is a good portion of what some of these subjects will entail. Okay, so I do want to go through how these sectional charts are relevant. It's like one of the most, do you use a sectional chart when you plan a flight? I hope you do, you better. It'd be very funny if you just like Google Maps it, or Siri, take me to Miami, and just hope for the best, you know? But yeah, you should be using a sectional chart, you better be. Your sectional charts will contain lots of useful bits and pieces of information about what you as a pilot need to be concerned about when flying through Class Bravo airspace. You don't want to burst through it. So it's as simple as looking at it and go, okay, I should probably not fly between this altitude in this area. Not a good idea, all right? Obstacles and terrain, I mean, like we live in Florida, so unless you want to like smack into a cell tower or something like that, we don't really have to worry about it, but it's still important to know. So yeah, obstacles and terrain, right, whatever. But it is important in the mountains.
Those cell towers in Buffalo are
the three, like, the three ones that look very like eerie looking, the one that we see out of your apartment window at night. That's what that is. Yep, yeah. That actually, there are hazards like that are pretty dangerous, and that's actually a good transition point to our next topic. I called them special use areas. Maybe I'm not using the exact FAA verbiage, but we'll run with it. TFRs, temporary flight restrictions. You guys ever look at ForeFlight whenever we have like a football game or some event like that going on? You see that red circle that pops up saying you should not go in here, or else an F-16 or a sheriff's office helicopter will shoot you down. I guess, I don't know. But that's something you don't want to do. There was actually a case a couple years back where I think it was a Cirrus pilot or something. I don't know what exact plane it was. They killed themselves flying in, I think it was the Caribbean. Tell me if you know about this, but they flew through a TFR not knowing that it was active because they had one of those weather balloons that's like tied to like a wire, like a steel cable, goes up thousands of feet in the air, cut his wing off. Completely preventable, perfectly good airplane, nothing wrong with them, the weather, nothing. But they killed themselves because they didn't check something as simple as a TFR or whatever it was that exactly they had placed to prevent someone from doing just that. But your sectional charts are going to provide those types of information. Let's say, for example, you're flying somewhere, and all of a sudden your passenger goes, all right, I'm going to die in like 5 minutes. You better land ASAP. They're not going to tell you that, but that's the type of judgment you can make, right? How do you know where you're going to? How do you know what airport you're going to fly to? Who to contact? How do you know if you can even land there, right? All this information is of use to you at a sectional chart. So I get that it's pretty overwhelming to those of you who are completely brand new to flying and don't know what all that shit means. But when you're actually thinking about how this is used, think about what this means when you're actually going out there and you're flying. Think about the consequences if you don't do your job correctly when you're looking at your sectional chart, all right? So that's all I got to say for that. We'll talk about weather for a little bit. So you should know what the weather is, where you're taking off from, where you're going. I hope you do that. That's pretty silly if you don't. Easy way to die in Florida with thunderstorms in the afternoon, right? If you don't check the weather and go right into a thunderstorm. So checking that. Winds are also pretty important, right? You guys know how crosswinds work and all that kind of stuff? You gonna say no?
I was going to.
Okay, I hope not. I was about to throw a table at you or something. But, right, so like, let's say for example that I'm flying, right? Well, let's try to get a mental exercise. Let's say that I'm pretend that I'm an object for like 5 seconds, okay? Let's say that I'm an airplane, and then there's like winds coming this way at say 10 knots or something like that. What happens if I continue doing this? Which way, I'm gonna go this way or this way? Towards you guys or away from you guys? Towards, so I'm gonna come closer to you like this and accidentally fall on top of you, you're right. That's exactly what happens. So whenever you're planning out your flight, looking at the winds, looking at how maybe there's a high pressure or a low pressure front in the area, these are the things that we want to bear in mind. We also have resources that we can look at, right? We don't have to just go to our phone and open up the weather app and hope that it's good enough, because it's not good enough. It's not everything you need. We can go through all these different resources here. So all these things are listed, but the part that I highlighted in red is the practical part that I want to share with you guys that I have found to be practical and of use when you're out there and flying. When you're learning how to fly, you have a flight instructor as a crutch. Well, yeah, it's not good enough. 5 knot winds, can't fly. Just want to go home early, but yeah, your flight instructor has a crutch. Now, when you're actually out there, and let's say, you don't know, you're flying a friend, you feel decently proficient, but you're just kind of in that gray area. And you've flown in these kinds of conditions before, but something just doesn't feel right. What's something that you can do that kind of helps you out? Well, I don't know about you guys, but I like talking to people. I like talking to smart people. I can do that. I can call, what, can you see it, Henry? Okay. You can call, here, let me, does that help? Yeah, now you know. Oh no, what'd I do? Okay. 1-800-WX-BRIEF, great resource. Has anybody in here, you've used it, I'm hoping? Have you used it? Yeah, I expect you to say no. Have you used it? Did you get shown that in the ground school class?
Oh, he called them, but I don't know. I don't know what happened after that.
Yeah, what, did they not answer or something? They better answer.
remember.
They did answer. But 1-800-WX-BRIEF, for those of you guys who don't know, I was gonna do like a funny little demo thing and all that, but that would have been too complicated for the actual teaching portion of it, so we're not gonna do that. But this is a number you can call, and what they will do is they'll connect you to a flight briefer. Do you guys know what they say when they answer the phone? They say something flight briefing. You know what the actual company is?
It's Lidos. They work great.
Lidos, good. You know, did you know that? Oh, so you guys know, good, you guys are smart. Lidos, it's like a Lockheed contractor, right? Yeah, Lockheed contractor, and they are there to help you and answer your questions and be a person. So at the end of the day, if you're ever in a position where you're going flying, you're not so sure, there's no CFI to tell you no, and it's on you, you're flying your friends, and if something happens, and that's your responsibility, hey, you know what we can do to mitigate some of this risk? We can call 1-800-WX-BRIEF. And then if you hear certain words like, if you're not instrument rated, and you hear the words VFR flight not recommended, or something about a thunderstorm, or something that could kill you, probably shouldn't fly. Agree? Yeah, yes, oh wow, you guys are smart. Good job, we're learning in here tonight, and I love it. Good. And if not that, you can also use aviationweather.gov. It's a digital version of it. But the reason why I placed 1-800-WX-BRIEF is less of a what usefulness there is. I mean, it's the same information. It's not really like it's anything radically different. But there is a certain psychological element to you as a human listening to another human talking and saying, hey, if you do this, you might die. So probably don't do that. That is the big reason for using this resource. It costs you nothing, and it takes like, what, 5 or 10 minutes, right? So if I had to offer you a practical tip, that is it. All right, weather resources. Really not too much to talk about here. You guys know what the ATIS is, right? When you listen to an airport, they have a renewed frequency, well, not a renewed frequency, excuse me, a renewed playing tape on a frequency of certain types of pertinent information like the runway in use, the weather, the winds, and all that great stuff. Cool. So the ATIS, the Automated Weather Observation System, that's kind of a given. I'm going to go ahead and brush through those because we don't really need to worry about that. That's kind of a given with doing flight training. Aviation Weather Center, that's the website. Do you guys like the new one or the old one better? For those of you who do know what it is. What about you? What do you think? Was it like the 1990s looking graphic, like every other FAA website? Yeah, you like the new one better? I don't like the new one. New one sucks. That's just me though, because I'm used to it. But Aviation Weather Center, that's a great website to use. I want to talk about these last 2 points over here. We're talking about resource. Everything that we do as pilots is to use resources to our advantage, right? So if you're flying and you see, wow, those clouds ahead of me look a little scary. I don't really trust them too much. They might rob me and leave me in my underwear and take my plane too, or something like that. why don't you just ask the controller, like, hey, those clouds ahead of us, should we like get around them? Can we request 30 to the left for weather? Okay, cool, that's it. Or maybe someone going ahead of you, right? You can ask, hey, was there an aircraft ahead of me? I heard them. What did they say? Was it rough? Would my passenger throw up? Something like that. So those are resources that are at your disposal that you can use, and you may not necessarily be taught these things outright when you're going through the textbook style of education, of learning how to fly, how to plan a flight, and all these kinds of things. But a resource is, at the end of the day, a resource, and it is something that you can use. Now, picking VFR waypoints, pretty simple. You don't want to pick something too close, because if you're going every 5 minutes, all right, we're here, all right, we're here, or something like that, it gets a little annoying. But if you pick something too far, now you're like wildly off course, your fuel burn is way off, your time en route is way off, now something's a little different. So picking something about 10 nautical miles apart is typically what we like to do. Picking unique waypoints is another thing. So if you say, yeah, that forest right there, like in the middle, that's where, okay, I hate to break it to you. As much as you think your vision might be great and you're super smart and you're a high school scholar and whatever else people say, great. I'm sorry, you're not gonna really have much luck picking that up in the air, sorry. But it's 8 a.m., you're flying over I-4, oh, lots of traffic. Great, I can identify that and laugh at those people down there. You bet I can. What about like a unique role, like an interchange or a unique, you ever see like those weird shaped lakes? It's like the shape of a U and you're like, there's no way that was natural, that was definitely man-made or something like that. Yeah, it's another good resource. So picking something unique, something that you won't confuse with something else is a great waypoint that I would recommend. Another thing, please make sure when you're picking a waypoint, it is actually on the sectional chart, okay? That's important. It is perfectly fine to pick a waypoint and then reference it to something else. Like, yeah, this waypoint is like 5 miles southeast of so-and-so airport. Perfectly fine, nothing wrong with that. But make sure that whatever reference you're making, you actually compare it to the sectional chart. So you're not telling the controller, yeah, I'm over, and then you like list some subdivision they've never heard of. Yeah, I'm sorry, they're not gonna know where that is. Hate to break it to you. Another thing that I want to kind of point out to you, when you're flying at nighttime, do you guys think, just shake your head yes or shake your head no, no words are needed. Do you think it's harder to identify certain landmarks when you're flying at nighttime? Good, that's my way of making sure no one dozed off. Wonderful. Okay, so I'm gonna give you guys a little bit of a pop quiz, but this is like one of the easiest things that you can learn on a sectional chart. And for those of you who don't know, you're about to learn. Who am I gonna pick on you? Don't smile at me, I want you to answer this question. What do you, okay, if you're wrong, it's perfectly fine. What do you think the yellow on the sectional chart means? Take a guess. Any guess is fine.
I don't know, is it land?
What do you think?
Is that land?
It is land. What is the yellow stuff on the land? What does that represent? You can give me the silliest guess in the world and I won't be mad at you. Probably.
Terrain?
Terrain, okay. Does anybody know what this is? I hope, oh, your hand went up, but I'm gonna go to you because I wanna hear from you. What do you think it is?
Densely populated areas.
Densely populated areas, wow, how about that? So if I'm flying at nighttime and I'm trying to see where I am and I see a bunch of lighting, that kind of gives me where I am, right? So if you see this, now you know. If you're ever flying it, here, I'll show you that way you don't forget. If you're ever flying at nighttime, guys, this is like one of the best resources that you have because let's say that, for example, we're approaching from this direction. Well, if we see, you know, oh, there's an airport because I saw the flashing beacon. I see the green and the white light flashing. So there's an airport over there. Oh, I see all these cities. I see all this yellow or white lighting that we now use nowadays. Okay, so I'm over here. So, you're welcome, by the way. Yellow is like the easiest thing to teach because it's everywhere on a sectional chart. So now I know the answer. Yellow is densely populated areas. But whenever you're flying at nighttime, please bear in mind that you may not be able to see a lake in pitch black. I don't know if I have to exactly teach this to you guys, but please do bear that in mind. Now, airports, lighted towers, densely populated areas, different story. All right, VFR cruising altitudes, all you need to know is that there are different altitudes above 3,000 feet that are used for cruising based on the direction that you're going. That's pretty simple. We're not gonna waste any more time on this. When it's time to learn it, you will learn it. But that is the gist of it. We don't just pick random altitude and go, you know what, today I'm gonna cruise at 8,000. No, not how it works, I'm sorry. There is a method to the madness, if you will, for how we pick our cruising altitudes. So I think this is one of the last QR codes. I heard that, bless you. Bless you 2 times. This is a advisory circular from the FAA. Does anybody want to tell me what an advisory circular is? Waleed?
Advisory circular. It's a document issued by the FAA
Yeah.
that calls out a advisory statement that
Yeah.
something could be a hazard, and it's telling you how you can mitigate such a hazard.
That's good. I like it. It's not a regulation, but it's the FAA saying, hey, we've heard enough from people that fly about XYZ subject. So if you're curious what our thoughts are on XYZ subject is, here it is. That is what a advisory circular says. This is the latest issued advisory circular on EFBs, or electronic flight bags. I'm gonna be so real with you guys. It's an iPad, okay? I have no idea why we call it an EFB. It is not a bag, it's not a backpack. I can't stow things in it. It is an iPad, but we call them EFBs because we do. Welcome to aviation. Okay, so let's talk about that just a little bit more. I think EFBs are freaking great. After going from paper charts to the iPad, man, life is so much better. Does anybody here use like a special like mount or anything for their flying? You just like have it in your lap? What about you? What type?
It's just on my lap.
Just something? Okay. I should have actually brought in my little thigh strap thing, but I got like the super, people always make fun of me for my super bulky iPad mini, but I laugh at them because I can just clip it onto my leg and I don't have to worry about it, so it sucks to be them. But this is my little big boy iPad mini mount thing. It is not cheap, as you can probably tell. But this thing is freaking awesome. All I gotta do is take this thing, I have like a little thigh strap, I clip it in, you can put it on the yoke, you can put it on the windshield. But this thing is freaking awesome. It's super simple. Everything that you may need will be found in your flight bag, as the FAA likes to call it. So the other good thing about your EFB is that it's all simplified when it comes to updates. Those FAA charts, my friends, do not last forever. I hate to break it to you. So instead of having to buy paper charts and like have like a filing cabinet in your backpack when you go flying, it's nicer to have an iPad, right? That's just me. If you guys want to do that.
So, is anyone, oh my god, is anyone in flight training right now? Show of hands. 1, 2, okay.
2 people.
One thing I'd like to advise you is when you're on your check ride, make sure you check with your DPE if he allows you to make your nav log or flight planning on your flight. Some of them allow it, some of them don't, but make sure you do. When I did my private, the person before me, who also had his check ride on the same day, failed from the first 5 minutes because Flight did not show the magnetic variation on his flight plan. So be careful when you use your electronic flight bags, Flight iPad. In addition, when I was doing that same check ride, my DPE for the beginning portions of the flight, so around the first 30 minutes, the practical check ride, he said, you're gonna turn off your iPad, you can't use your GPS, you can't have the breadcrumbs on flight, and you're gonna fly by the visual VFR checkpoints. So yes, it's way more expedient to use your technology, but for the check ride, make sure you know how to use it just with the nav log. And if you check the ACS, and that's on the private and commercial, I believe, one of the things you're going to get tested on is once you provide your VFR checkpoints, he's going to ask you, he asked me exactly this, what time do you think you're going to reach that specific point? And I had to tell him by the minute, oh, it's going to be 2:35. And it was 2:35, so I did pass. But yeah, just things like that. If you're flying from your airport, I would just start to get used to it, see, okay, flight traffic pattern, I got up, Lake Apopka, what time is it now? Just to get, a bit familiar with the performance of your own airplane. And again, it's gonna be subjective due to the weather, but you still should be familiar with your airplane's performance, your nav logs, visual VFR points, and of course, flight as a backup. But be prepared to not use it on your check ride. Just wanted to add that.
Thank you, Waleed. Good job. That was completely unprompted. I didn't have to feed him any treats for that. Good job. No treats. One other thing that I started to see some people do is like they get so tired of using flight, they actually go back to using these just for the hell of it. That's another thing you do for fun. Anyways, we love paper, don't we? Now, we talked about, did I go back one? No, 294. Okay, so we talked about the good sides of it. Let's talk about the bad sides of using EFB. Look, we're not going to sit here and go boomer on you and say, no, you need to use paper. jump to the general line, whatever it is they say. Okay, well, that's great and all, but let's be realistic. With any technology out there, no matter how new or old or advanced or simple, there's always pros and cons. It'd be really slow to sit up here and talk about the pros and ignore the cons. So let's recognize, first of all, it's a battery powered device. Okay, you can mitigate that risk by having it plugged in or by having a power bank. Okay, but if you're flying super far, understand that your capabilities are limited all of a sudden by your battery life. Great for that. Cellular connection. That's why I got the cellular version. This thing is so freaking awesome. I don't have to worry about the Wi-Fi that it doesn't even work, but the Wi-Fi that we have here at UCF, no problem. I got this bad boy right here. And aside from the UCF Wi-Fi being absolute ass, and not having to worry about it, you can also use it when I'm flying up to like 3,000-ish feet. No connection, but that's an option. Now, on that note, I can't speak to other platforms. I know there's like Garmin and some other apps out there, but at least for using for flight and the FB, I know that you can pack a flight. So you download your stuff before you go. You don't have to worry about losing your cell service. Wonderful. Like we was talking about, possibly develop complacency. It's entirely possible to get used to, for flight and go. Okay, great. Now what happens if your iPad dies or it decides to update itself, which I don't know how it would do it 3,000 feet, but if it updates itself in the middle of cruise, now what are you gonna do? All right. And then another thing. This one, I usually, in case you can't tell the pattern here, these ones are kind of based on sometimes true stories and or hazards. This one's a little bit of both. I was flying with somebody one time, and we were taking off out of an airport, and I was in the right seat, he was in the left seat. They had an iPad. They got some rinky-dink Amazon Temu brand case holder thingy, and it was on the right leg. So we start to take off, we rotate, and then the airplane starts to go to the left, and then the yoke gets stuck, and I'm like, oh my god, no. And then I grab the iPad, move it out of the way, take control, and I'm able to take off just fine. But that one simple thing right there could have quickly turned that flight south. In fact, it could have turned the flight into multiple pieces of aircraft on the pavement if it was not quickly rectified, but it was. But your iPad is absolutely a hazard if it is not controlled, if it is not properly secured, as I say. That's why I have no problem dropping a couple hundred, I think is what it was, on a case like that, because I know for a fact that when I put it on the yoke, when I put it onto my thigh strap, that sucker ain't going nowhere, which is extremely important. So, tips and tricks. Good news is that we're approaching the end of the presentation, so if your butt is sore, we're going to fall asleep or both at the same time because you're adventurous like that, great. We're almost there, folks. Just bear with me. All right, so some more tips and tricks I wanted to kind of end off on. This is something that, unfortunately, I did not learn until beyond my private pilot days, but using satellite view to identify landmarks. Yeah, I wish somebody told me that a lot sooner. No idea. It's so simple, but no one told me. Yay. But literally, what you can do, especially with, let me show you guys on my iPad. So you can literally go onto your hidden name for flight. You can have a flight plan made, and it'll draw the magenta line from here to there. And all you got to do, literally, is switch off from your sectional view, and then you can go to your aerial map view, and you can quickly zoom in, just like it's, what is it? Google Maps has that, Apple Maps has that. And you can identify whatever landmarks you may need to with airspace overlays, with points on there, and other things relevant to your route. So using that tool before you go up in the air, like, hey, I've never been there before, but if I go on Google Maps or I go on support flight, and sometimes satellite view for like 2 minutes, I could probably get a little bit of a better sight picture of what I can expect to see when I'm up there and I'm flying.
So speaking about landmarks, if you're ever flying to an airport, one of the main obstacles I was experiencing in my private pilot days is finding the actual runway. I don't know if you guys relate on that, but I swear sometimes it's, especially if you're flying low, you want to find the runway, it can get a bit difficult. One thing I do that is a bit out of the box is before I fly to an unfamiliar airport, I type in the airport name into YouTube and I make sure that I have some sort of visualization of how's it going to look like. And in addition to visualization, you can also go to ATC Live and check the traffic, the air traffic controllers. Do they have any sidestep? Which runways are they using? Parallel runways? Or anything that might be unfamiliar when you arrive. Because again, you're trying to fly the plane mentally before you fly in actual life. So just one more thing.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lee. It's actually a quick one using the live ATC app to listen to the traffic. One other thing that I like to say that's useful and practical. I don't know how to tell this to you guys, but when I was in my private pilot days, no one ever taught me about certain airports charging landing fees. Have you ever flown an airport where they charge you a landing fee or anything outrageous like that? Where?
I flew to Winston,
Yeah.
but I got away with fuel.
Oh, all right. Anything from you? Landing fees, any places like that? Good. Okay. I myself haven't had anything bad happen to me yet, but I've heard stories like that. Like, oh well, we're not gonna let you fly. We're not gonna let you go back onto the airplane until you feel like you're stuck in the FBO. I'm like, oh, fair. Take 15 bucks chance, let me go to the plane, kind of deal. But some places will do that. Tell you what, yes, there's like little nitty gritty details like landing fees and the FBO being terrible, the bathroom not being great. Yeah, that's in the flight comment. But there's also, yeah, well, I flew in and control was super workload intensive. It was super busy airspace. Or, oh yeah, well, they denied traffic pattern practice with my CFI after this condition unfolded. Those are the comments that you can get from a platform, for example, like Flight. So whenever I'm doing my commercial time building, which I hope to see you guys join me on sometime if you're doing time building as well. Something I'll do when I'm going to an airport that I may have not been to before is go to the Flight comments and read through what some of the people have to say about the airport. Again, something I didn't learn until very recently. Now, I use it every time. Another thing, oh yeah, this one hurts really bad. EFB direct planning is not accurate. Ask me how I know. What I mean by this is when you go to two airports and you plug them in, it'll give you an ETA of how long the flight's supposed to take you. Well, guess what? It's going to take however long it says, plus like another maybe say 15 or 20 minutes in the person plane because it's a traffic pattern. If you're IFR, so it's going to take you longer, and so on and so forth. So we always want to be conservative with calculations, so that's fuel and all those great things. And who's time, my friends? Be mindful of that. Flight plan and flight following, ATC, again, we're talking about resource management. That's something that, I don't know, every time I fly, at least try to. If they're busy, they can't, support a flight following if I'm VFR, oh well, I tried. But if I'm IFR, oh, you gotta take me anyway. So the idea is that if you have the ability to have air traffic control give you an extra eye in the sky, use it. I mean, I don't really know how much more I can drive that point home and hammer it into your skull, but that's the idea with that. But that does pretty much conclude the workshop, so thank you guys for attending. It was a little bit challenging to try to develop something that caters to people.